This session is actually quite near and dear to our heart. We are Strand Minds. We are a San Francisco-based VC and advisory firm focused on applied AI. We started in 2018, and people said that's crazy. It kind of worked out. Now everyone believes original statement that started our fire. We said software is eating the world, but AI is eating software and everything else. And you heard this during the earlier session as well. Again, back in 2018, people said it's crazy to do stuff like this. But now people believe it. Now, in fact, it's not even believing. They take it as truism, right? And SF is where we are, and that's where significant majority of AI advancement, capital investments, and so forth are happening, which is part of the reason why we brought 3 very difficult founders to meet. In fact, we bumped into some of the investors, and they said, like, hey, how did you get in? How did you even bring them here? Because we cannot even get a meeting with them. So the reason why we brought them is because the big things are happening in San Francisco, and I wanted you to get a sense as to what's happening there and hear directly from the founders doing the cutting edge work as to where things are going and how far we have come, right? So it's not to showcase. This is a single slide that I'm most proud of. We use some of the technologies that these guys make to do the profile pictures. If you're just using static picture, you're struggling, right? All right, there we go. Yeah. I used to be chief innovation officer at IBM, and I was running applied AI business. And IBM, as you know, used to be tier 1, number 1 in the AI business. Even in those days, even despite the fact that we had some most amazing AI products and technologies there, people used to challenge the idea of creativity being amplified by artificial intelligence. Human creativity is unique to humans, and that will never be replaced. A lot of people make this never by AI predictions right now, but I'll just leave 2 thoughts going into this discussion. 1, machines' ability to sense and express human emotion has exceeded human ability on average this year. Think on that. 2, one of the biggest area, fast accelerating, is in the domain of creativity, which is why we picked this topic. The media and entertainment, you take it for granted as something for mass, because mass media is what we have. But if you think about the history back in the days, media communication was controlled by the rulers. Who can read, who can write, who get to leave the history behind, right? Because how you communicate and how you control media controls a lot of things. And today, we're not going to talk about politics. We'll talk about how media and entertainment is evolving and how that leads to commerce, right? But before we start, I want to introduce our esteemed the guest. I will not say panelist. And I'll start with Pixbill. All right, Alex, introduce yourself.
Yeah, for sure. I would love to give you a non-traditional introduction so that I can explain my passion towards media and AI. So first of all, I come from very academic family. Both parents are professors, and my mother used to design rockets. And what's interesting is that today, actually, media has very strong impacts on our lives. It really defines what is popular, what technology is popular, and the trends are being changed every day. And what TikTok changed is that they pushed the frequency to the limits where the changes happen every hour. So it's very difficult for people to stay relevant, and social media is the primary channel to stay relevant. As you can see with this technology, now it unlocks new media formats for everyone, and which was not possible to do before. And I do believe that this is critical for human self-expression.
By the way, Alex is pretty humble. Still very difficult to meet. Sometimes he cancels meetings on us. But in case you're not familiar already, they make the #1 media generation platform in the world, right? Let's think about that. And from the product launch plus 11 weeks, in 11 weeks, they got to $50 million annual recurring revenue. And 2 weeks after that announcement, I spoke to Alex briefly, and he said we are approaching $30 or $40 million. So I don't know where this is going, but it's a rocket ship, right? Okay, next.
Start of something brand new category of media.
It was just something very, very new and different.
It was responding in real time.
Steven?
Hi, everyone. My name's Steven. I'm a Capricorn. I live in Hollywood, so I don't actually live in San Francisco. I guess I can talk about my journey here. So I had a startup, and in 2019, as a joke, we made this deep fake of Joe Rogan that we put on the internet. And we thought maybe 1,000 people would see it, and it'd be fun, and maybe our friends would think it was funny. And overnight, 3.5 million people saw it. And the New York Times called, and they're like, this is a threat to democracy, and we need to follow you and film a documentary about how this technology evolves. And that set off a crazy cascade of events in my life that included me having to go to Congress to speak about how the technology could be a threat to democracy, me getting in trouble with the CIA, and then culminating in Jack Dorsey buying the company in early 2020. And I worked for him for 4 years and built AI teams for him, all the while thinking about what can we do with this technology that's fun, that sort of spurs human creativity, and most specifically, what can we do that we couldn't do before? So the thing that we came upon was true interactivity. So if you can create assets in real time for almost zero cost, then you can create a situation where the audience can actually talk to the screen, and the screen talks back, and then you have this nice sort of collective interplay. And what you saw was the response from the crowd. We've done a bunch of screenings at BAFTA, at Cannes, and we're actually doing one at the Busan Film Festival at the end of this month.
So here's the reason why we talk about deepfake ever since 2019. But what he just explained, the way I sort of play back to other people that we introduce him to, although he doesn't always want the introductions because he's so busy, is usually audience watch movies. With this technology, movies also watch you and in real time react to you, changing story arc, what happens in the movie, music, script, right? Everything. How far you push it, that is really entirely up to director, so you can control it. Not everything needs to be a shit show, pardon my French, right? So there's some interesting stuff that's been happening, and he's premiered his first movie at BAFTA in London, and the second one was at Cannes Movie Festival, and then third one is coming, I think September 20th at the Busan International Film Festival. Just by happenstance, we met a bunch of CEOs in the media space, some very big IP-owning movie production distribution companies, and some of those CEOs actually said, I don't know where Busan is, but I need to fly over, get me a ticket. Yeah, so it's getting a lot of attention, so pay attention to this one. Next, Arié is one of our partners, but he's also an expert in e-commerce and what media does in the commerce world. Arié, you want to say a few words?
Yes. First, I want to say that I wish that I was a threat to democracy. Unfortunately, no one's ever called me that. But I would like to say that I believe very strongly that media and culture are intrinsically related, and the culture and commerce are really two sides of the same coin. So as we witness AI changing everything about commerce and media, about culture and media, we're also seeing how AI is not just impacting commerce, but is fundamentally reshaping it. And I'm here to share a little bit about that with you today, about how we see the next generation of commerce and the next generation of merchants.
I hate to put him on the spot, but he actually wrote a paper, I think it was 2021, predicting what's going to happen in the world of commerce. That paper shocked our partners, and it shocked many people, including the founders of Shopify. So he actually went there for a year advising a founder's office. But basically, one of the key things he said that shocked a lot of us is that people buy on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. They've already made the purchasing decisions. They show up at Amazon and Shopify to pay and pick stuff up. So then what is the dynamics of the true commerce going forward? is the starting point of his thesis. So if you somehow manage to wrestle that piece of paper out of him, I think you will learn a lot. It was an incredible education for the rest of partners and many people in the commerce world. Next. Character AI. The second most important and popular consumer AI app in the world. Devin?
Okay, nice to see you all today. I'm a product leader and design leader, largely working in emerging technology space. My career is kind of divided into two halves. In the first half of my career, I was very focused on big, complex projects. I worked on Android operating system and the Pixel phone, which you may know, large-scale enterprise AI projects at companies like Dropbox. But then halfway through my career, I took a pivot to go work at a company called YouTube, the video streaming site, and worked on their emerging technologies team where we looked at technologies like augmented reality and virtual reality. And I fell into a team that was looking at virtual humans. And this was a trend where people were really forming a deep bond with YouTubers, YouTube personalities, who were not real people. And this fascinated me. What was going on? Why were they so invested in a cartoon YouTuber? So this work took me across Asia, visiting Japan and even Korea, to talk to folks about this kind of trend. And from there, my career has taken this trajectory of thinking not only about kind of enterprise and productivity software, but also AI and entertainment and creativity. In 2021, I co-founded an AI anime studio in Tokyo called Shinsai Galverse, where we looked at new ways to engage fandom and bring fans along the creative process of developing an IP. And most recently, I joined Character AI, one of the largest AI entertainment platforms with about 20 million users at the moment, where fans come to the platform to engage with hundreds of millions of characters. They talk, they chat, they create stories, and they share together with these virtual personalities. And I'm continue to be fascinated about the relationship and the intersection between people and these stories and characters that they grow to love. So I look forward to a great conversation today. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. So let's set the stage for the dialogue you're about to have. Instead of trying to do panels, I'm going to let everyone on this stage to randomly interrupt me or ask questions that I should be asking, foolishly forgetting to ask, and so forth. So think of this more as a fireside chat. But setting the stage, number one, AI used to be in the backstage when it comes to media, for editing, for special effects, sound mixing, etc. Now AI is on the front stage. It's actually the stage. It is actually how you make it. A singular person could actually make a feature film. That's the stage we are in, right? So keep that in mind. Number two, for every dollar at the box office, there are actually $5 to $10 worth of merchandising all the way through fan management services they can offer and commercialize. Currently, that is not being fully leveraged. Furthermore, when you make a movie, the math kind of goes like this. Hey, if 10% of the human population would like this type of movie, and if the 10% of that 10% would come and watch the movie, you're going to succeed. Let's do this. But with certain technologies and AI, especially if AI is also watching you, if the movie is also watching you, you might be able to tackle broader market, not just 10%. And you might be able to immediately convert that into commercial opportunities and so forth. As Arié predicted, people buy because of media and influence. They already decided. The purchasing actions happen later, but media is the starting point, right? And the third one is the question we need to hold in our head. How does AI reshape not just media, but culture and commerce? What does this all mean? Because it's a very different mathematics now, right? But maybe I'll start by asking, who's even creating? Who are your creators on your respective platform as the stage setting questions? Maybe I'll start with the unusual setup of a movie that watches audience. So why don't we start with Steven, yeah?
We have a dynamic where there has historically been, it's been a one-way relationship with the screen, right? So someone creates something and then the audience sort of sits there and passively consumes it. So with this new technology, you sort of blur the line between the audience and the sort of primary creator. And then you have a situation where the audience is actually co-creating something. So that opens up to be like if the question is like who's the creator, then like everyone is the creator, and it's sort of that there are degrees of like who's doing the primary creating and who's kind of doing the co-creating.
And how about in case of Higgs field? I mean, you've been taking up a lot of customers, obviously. What's happening? Who's creating?
Yeah, I mean, one of the most exciting things which I have seen, but it doesn't represent our audience, is that first it started with like Madonna and Snoop Dogg creating like videos with Higgs fields, but now actually people create like virtual artists. And I can tell you that like, and there is so strong demand that like real humans want to create their digital versions to make a collab with these virtual artists. So, but that maybe represents only like 30% of the usage on the platform. Really, 70% of the usage is focused on the social media marketing, advertising, and definitely commerce. So one of the key areas for us is to just make sure that we provide native product placement technology so that people can efficiently promote their products, their goods on social media.
Are you seeing something similar, Devin, with the character AI?
Very similar to what Steven mentioned. In character AI, someone creates a character. They put that on the platform for everybody else to engage with through conversation. And other users will talk to that character and have a back and forth. And often, many times, what they're actually doing on the platform is creating a story together. Perhaps writing a short story together, having an engaging, almost like a role play, if you're familiar with Dungeons and Dragons or something similar to this. And at the same time, they're using our multimodal technologies to create images or videos from that conversation. So it starts to become incredibly blurry, as Steven mentioned, and attribution is very difficult. Who does that video or image belong to? Does it belong to the person who had the conversation with the character? Does it belong to the character as an agentic identity? Does it belong to the original creator? Should it belong to us as the platform that has the model that powers this? And so these are, I think, the very difficult creator attribution challenges that new AI platforms are facing, which is making it very blurry about who actually is the creator.
Now, I'm going to just suggest that you also explain from your technology, respective technology perspective, just how far it has come, because not everyone's familiar with your respective companies. So I'll just sort of preload the questions for all three of you at the same time. Like Alex, with the Higgs field, is this still like the Mid-Journey we saw a couple of years ago that has 6 fingers and not somebody can always tell whether it's AI or not? And for Steven, what kind of movie can you expect to watch on your platform? Is it photorealistic production movies like Mission Impossible, or is it something else? If it is something else, how far are we from getting to that level? And Devin, characters, chatbot. I mean, you started with the very textual chatbots. Like, how far has it come? Are we looking at human-like creatures and talking to them? Does it matter? Do people engage with your character because they want to accomplish something, or are they on character AI for different reasons? Maybe I'll start with you, Alex. How far has it come?
It's the technology progress is truly phenomenal. So I'm working in the video AI for the last like 10 years. Think like whole my professional life. And we, as a society, we made more progress in terms of that technology progress, but also the adoption in this year, in the last 9 months, than we did in the previous 9 years. This is truly phenomenal. And you know that historically there were gatekeepers and a lot of, let's say, fashion magazines, a lot of agencies. They really love to say that AI cannot produce something unique, that it's not art, that's like imitation. But now everyone uses AI technology, and we are happy to see that Higgs field helps to democratize the technology. One of the key differentiation on the product level is we create those easy-to-use presets. So so that our customers don't have to learn how to do the prompt engineering, how to write those 100-word-long prompts, and they can use the simple drag and drop interface on the platform. And I can tell you that this technology sort of replaces, and I hate these words, but I probably need to say that, it sort of replaces those expensive multi-day shootings.
Yeah, I mean, we spent less than one photo shoot for one person to create all of this, and we were complaining to Hicksfield that it was too expensive. But when you step back and look at it, it's like, wow, we did it for all 5 of us, and then some. I think we did it for 8 people. We only used 5. So something to think about. But how realistic is it getting? Like, can somebody always tell it's AI or not by looking at the production done with Hicksfield?
Yeah, totally. I think the only way to sort of differentiate AI-generated video from non-AI-generated video is to look at reflections, like reflection from, like light reflection from eye, from glasses, from the forehead. You really need to be attentive to the details. Otherwise, you cannot really spot the difference.
I see. All right, Steven, how far? What are you expected to watch on your platform?
So we have a different sort of tech stack. So we need our technology to be responsive in real time. So if people in the audience are typing things in their phone, that needs to be reflected on the screen in a few seconds. And that means that the amazing sort of video models that you see, we just can't use them. The latency, there's too much latency. So we use sort of a variety of different techniques. And the output looks like animation. But what that gives us is it gives us the ability to interact in real time. It gives us characters who are consistent between scenes, and they can be consistent for half an hour or an hour. And it gives us the ability to tell a story, because you need sort of consistent characters over time to tell a story. And I think we can tell a good story even if it's sort of in like an animated way. I'd also say, given the pace of things, that I expect us to be able to tell sort of Hollywood style, like real-time interactive stories with Hollywood levels in a short period of time.
By the way, because most of you probably would not have seen Pickford, I've gone through a couple of viewing myself. This is not choose your adventure, like already produced, and you choose option A, option B, and continuing with the story. Every part of the story is modifiable if you choose to use this platform. And we start thinking about Pickford. Should we invest in this company or not? At some point. By the way, we only invested in one of the companies that are present here. We didn't necessarily bring just portfolio companies to market here. Although after talking to some of these, we might be expanding that across some of these companies that are present here. But when you're going through the discussion, our partner who presented earlier, Summer Kim in the white jacket on the window side, what she said was she used to be the global user research leader at Roblox. And she said the engagement doesn't necessarily come from photorealistic images and videos. Image comes from creativity and narratives. So she certainly she had a very interesting perspectives around how we need to be looking at it. Because if we say, we're not going to do this because it's not photorealistic images and videos like Star Wars or Star Wars is not photorealistic, Mission Impossible or something to that effect, we probably are going to be missing some really big opportunities once we start thinking about it, right? Now, how about character? By the way, character AI is what people say from outside. Insiders who are really close to the ecosystem will say CAI, C-A-I, right?
You've got some inside scoop
there,
which is good. The technology is advancing at an incredible pace. I think something, and I'm so glad you mentioned the Summer's insight before, because I fundamentally agree. I think our goal is not to develop hyper-realistic characters that could fool you. I actually don't think it'd be particularly helpful for the broader society, and I don't actually think it would be that great for business. I think one thing we've learned is that there is a term called iconic. And often what this means is when a character in perhaps a manhwa is drawn, or a manga or a comic book, they're drawn quite simply. And that is often because the author wants the reader to project themselves into the story. And many times, the more detailed a character is, the harder it is to kind of step into that world and be part of that world in your imagination. So many times on character, what we're actually looking to do is not create characters that are perfect copies of humans, but instead focus on characters that are creative, that are engaging, that are fun to talk to, that are humorous to talk to, that just give you a great experience on the platform. And that's actually a very different approach in how you approach building the business. And I'd say the biggest change I've seen is that a couple years ago, the only models that we all had available to us were very much utility-based models, right? Productivity models. The benchmarking we used for those models was based on certain academic benchmarks we were trying to beat out and improve and things like this. But now, as you see the AI space broadening beyond just utility to also entertainment, we need new benchmarks. And a big part of what we do, the work at Character, is how we think about tools like evals or benchmarking for storytelling, for entertainment. What does it mean for a model to be better at having a great conversation with you, at listening to you, at helping you go on a great adventure together? Whether the model is great at coding or mathematics will not really help you there. And so the tooling just hasn't existed. So I'd say that the emergent field of models really fit for purpose and fine-tuning recipes fit for purpose for entertainment is actually just beginning, which is quite exciting.
And as I understand it, a lot of us go to the likes of ChatGPT or Anthropic to get it done as soon as possible and get the heck out. But my understanding from the earlier discussion before you got here was that people who use Kai stay on there for quite a while.
Yeah, they do. We have some really fantastic usage numbers, and particularly some of our Gen Z users in particular love engaging with these kind of characters. And a big question I had when I joined is, why is this audience segment so fascinated by and so attuned with these characters? Why do they spend their so many hours per day, speaking with these characters? And so we looked at a lot of data. We talked to a lot of young users. What's going on here? And something that really stood out to me was that these users are kind of role-playing on the platform. Many times we have a feature that we call persona, and that is you're allowed to have your own identity on the platform. And so I, myself on the platform, may have 5 or even 6 or 7 personas. Maybe in one persona I look like me, maybe in another persona I'm a little bit taller, maybe in another persona I'm a woman, maybe in another persona I'm a goblin, some kind of funny creature. And so what we saw was young users using these personas to explore different parts of their identity, having different kinds of conversations. Sometimes they'd have a persona and they'd have a conversation, what if I never went to college? What would my life have been like? Or what if I dated somebody else in my life? And so they're thinking through these scenarios about themselves, about their world that they live in, and they're trying to make sense of that. And so I think a lot of young users in particular are turning to LLMs, be that utility LLMs like ChatGPT or entertainment LLMs like Character, to role play and tell stories and have fun, but in doing so, actually try and make sense of themselves and the world that they're growing up in, which, as we know, is a very confusing time and a very noisy time and a very chaotic time. So I think, AI for entertainment actually plays a very unique role there that we haven't seen a lot of before.
It's just remarkable listening to you guys, because basically anything that I can imagine as a picture or video, I can create it with Higgs field, with the barely noticeable difference between reality and synthetics. Any movie, I wish the movie went this way, but often it's not. With the Pick4, you can actually direct how a movie plays out to my liking or to the director's liking. And with the Kai, you're talking about essentially creating a synthetic life, alternative life, that you can simulate and interact with. So then I'm going to ask Arié to lead part of the discussions here on this. So Arié, some years ago you predicted and nicely observed that people buy things on media, and then they go pick things up at the likes of Amazon or maybe Coupang in this case. If anyone can create whatever is imaginable, how does the equation change? Who even qualifies to be a creator now? And if the influence in the media used to lead to commercial decisions, commerce or purchasing decisions back then when you made the observation, in the world of AI where the dynamics and mathematics have changed, does that prediction still hold true? How does that prediction play out in the AI first world?
That's a great question. I would say that, to peel apart your question a little bit, what I'm hearing is before we could vet who got to create things, and now kind of anybody gets to create something. So if anybody gets to create something, like how do we know that? How do we know that person's allowed to create things? That person's going to create something good or worth consuming. So part of the question is, who is a creator today? A creator used to be somebody sitting in a studio. Now it's somebody sitting at home, someone sitting in an audience, someone trying to figure out who they are. Creators are also not just creating content. They're creating products. They're creating new brands. They're creating brand new business models. And content and storytelling is kind of the vehicle through which these new things are created. The cycle time is extremely fast. The markets that these people are identifying and turning on are not competitive markets. They're overlooked by traditional merchandisers or traditional brands or traditional retailers. They may not see them, or they may see them and like actively discourage these markets. And so these creators are incredible in that they're creating these, whole new businesses, and they're matching them to whole new markets. And I would say they're not just regular people. I would say they're very incredible people. They're insightful. They're often very accomplished in other fields. It could be artists, business people, politicians, and they're creating these incredible and interesting and weird new ideas and designs and products, brands, marketplaces, all sorts of very new currencies, all sorts of interesting things that are really kind of driving our culture forward. So, the impact of generative AI on these people is to really unleash them and create all these new capabilities that we are the beneficiary of, even if we don't always see it. We may not be that exact market, but the things that we're seeing and things that we're buying and the choices we're making are often stemming. They're kind of downstream from these origin stories, which are really impacting everything from media, culture, the way we buy, what we want to buy, how we present ourselves to the world, whether that's through the shoes that we're wearing or the pictures we're posting of ourselves online, the stories that we consume, the stories that we tell ourselves. These are very existential questions, and the impact of generative AI really can't be underestimated in this world.
By the way, this is fireside chat, so feel free to ask each other or engage other people. I don't have to direct everything. But a follow-up question to you, Arié. So if anyone can create, but then the more accomplished people do better jobs. But as AI technology become easier, more pervasive, and better understood, what do you think is going to happen to your observation about how people buy on media and how influencers have a strong play in that mix? Do the incumbent here, or incumbents so far, here to stay and continue to win, or does it flip? I ask with a quick backdrop. When he made a prediction, he said that in the world of commerce, because of this influence in media, unicorns that VCs don't know about will be popping up left and right. And even after popping, you guys may still not know about them. In fact, something really interesting happened. Jeffree Star, formerly a musician, maybe still a musician, but he puts makeup on himself to sell the makeup to women. When he did the product drop, it was so popular. It was not even a Thanksgiving or Christmas holidays. He crashed Shopify, I think team of fewer than 15 people or something like that, and crashed Google Cloud in the process, which is incredible, right? A single product drop on a random date by one influencer on YouTube, right? So what happens to the incumbents like that? And what are going to be the new incumbents?
I want to turn it over to our panelists here. What I'll say is that tools like we're seeing and stories like we're hearing right now on stage by these accomplished inventors are democratizing content. And democracy is a disruptive force. Towers fall when disruption happens. So people win, people lose. We hear a lot about the winners. Here's this company that had nothing. And due to this power in 12 weeks and in 12 months, these unbelievable things happened. Okay, on the flip side, we have these incredible, powerful, I mean, let's face it, movie studios are still powerful, brands are still powerful, bands, large bands are still exert a big cultural impact on us. Now it's up to them. It's up to them. Do they still want to go through 12-month planning cycles and seasonally we bring out this close this then and this close then? Or do they start picking up on the incredible cycle speed that certain other consumers, certain other brands can achieve by being closer to people, by having a closer connection to them? So this is the choice that's available. There's always going to be winners. There's always going to be losers. And right now the ball is in the court of the people with the power and with the money and with the capabilities to decide if they're going to dismiss some of these things or they can adopt it and they can adapt and they can change. But what are some of the things that you're seeing?
Well, I think obviously brands are important. Hollywood in the last 10 years just makes like remakes. It sort of rehashes the same thing. And I think it does that because it costs like $100 million and 1,000 people and 5 years to make a movie. So they're super risky. So they try to de-risk it by making Happy Gilmore 2, which worked the first time. And I think a more exciting model is, I mean, people like the brand of Happy Gilmore or whatever it is, and they like the stars in it, and stars actually have legitimate power. And I think the more exciting thing is allowing people to like remix different versions of like beloved IP. So I think IP is still popular, but like we increase the surface area of how people engage with it. So I think that's a cool idea.
I think just to jump off the back of the remix comment, which I think is very interesting, if I'm an IP holder, my main competitive moats is probably capital. I can afford to put on these large-scale productions, right, for the fan base. Well, the marginal cost of media is trending towards zero with tools like Higglesfield and other generative AI tools. Well, then I also perhaps have a moat on skill. I have incredible workforce. I've built incredible studios. No one can make movies like us. Unfortunately, the tools are also catching up very quickly that allow someone with very little experience to create incredible video or image productions. So my two massive competitive advantages have been diminished very much. So as an IP holder, I would be asking myself, what are my new moats actually in this kind of remix culture? I mean, I'd love to hear what everyone thinks. My feeling is that it's probably more to do with curation. If there are going to be millions of TikToks of my artist or my band, how am I curating that? How am I in charge of what is being surfaced and not the TikTok algorithm? It might be taste, could be the vibe, as they say. It could also be community. How am I rallying those fans around my IP? How am I bringing them together? Or am I letting them sit on YouTube and TikTok and X and Kakao, wherever? So I think the competitive moats are going to have to change as IP holders, particularly I guess K-content IP holders as well, will have to embrace some of these new tools in their entertainment industry.
So in this situation, I'm just curious about what's really happening from the commercial perspective. A lot of these people are probably motivated to make money off of the new capabilities being born and made available to them. Maybe just start off, what kind of commercial activities are you seeing or do you expect to see as a result of the technologies you are bringing to the table, to the market? What do you see on Higgsfield?
This is a very interesting question. So I think the immediate step forward is the creation of very small AI first agencies. Really, the team of 3 people, let's say from like Southeast Asia, can now make over $1 million a month as they curate AI artists, like AI influencers, and then sign commercials with bigger brands, essentially creating this constant capital flow to support the business. Another thing which is another very interesting trend today is to see, let's say, larger e-commerce brands to like A/B testing how the actor should look like in the ads, what should be the background, and also with in-place localization capabilities. I think this is the second major trend which we are observing.
Oh, cool. So smaller guys, not in New York, London, or LA, driving the media agency, making millions of dollars. Yeah.
Yeah, I think all major agencies, at least everyone which I know, use Higgsfield, but only for storyboarding, and they will never probably admit this in public, right? So I cannot drop the names here. But they all use Higgsfield for storyboarding specifically because the marketing budgets get smaller, and agencies they have to be really efficient before they close projects, meaning that they need to make storyboards at a cost like 10, 50 times slower than they used to do this before with traditional methods. That's where Gen AI delivers efficiencies for agencies today.
But you're going further than that. I heard that, and I also saw the Instagram snippet on this, that you made a virtual K-pop idol.
It's not us, right? I mean, we do work with a set of creators, like let's say a few hundred of creators, and one of them created this K-pop idol in partnership with Higgsfield, which we called Higgsfield Records. This video already hit over 10 million views on socials, and I think they have a pretty large brand deal on the table. So that's really exciting to see.
Wow, unbelievable. Are they Koreans by any way? By the chance?
But they designed the character to look like a K-pop star, because this is the culture which resonates with the whole world.
Right. What do you expect to see on the character side of things? Or is what's happening on the commercial side?
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. And I think that's a great example, just thinking about that for a second. I mean, let's assume as a thought experiment that will continue, and that we will see more and more pop groups, pop idols, singer-songwriters that are actually agentic first or virtual. What does that mean for the traditional model? I think that's a fascinating question. That's a very challenging question to actually consider for a label or a studio. I think the bigger question, though, that we think about a character is that when our creators are creating a character, often what they're actually creating is a world. They're thinking about the whole world around that character, the other characters that it interacts with, the places that it lives, the adventures that it goes on. And many times our creators are trying to share parts of that world so that people step into that world, spend time in that world, have adventures and stories in that world. And so to the point of this virtual idol, if you're creating, Blackpink, right, and the fans are the Blinks, that is the world of Blackpink. And as the label behind that, you're trying to have fans spend more time inside of that world as a Blink. And so what does that actually look like when there are infinite idol groups to support, infinite idols to cheer for? Who wins then? Who gets the most attention? I think it will be whoever creates the most compelling world to spend time within. And so then the question is, the content is free, there's no competitive technical moat, so what do you commercialize? I believe the answer is that you will commercialize identity. Users will spend money to maintain that identity in that world, to be part of that world, and to make sure that their actions within that world, the fan art that they make, the fan cams that they produce, the memes that they produce, to make sure that those can reach parts of that community, can persist in that community, and that they will be remembered by the other fans in that community, because the status of being a super fan in that community will mean so much to them. So I think we will see a shift in commerce when it comes to virtual characters from merchandising to identity. And that'll take many, many years to transform, but I think you can see the beginnings of that right now with examples like we just heard.
Ari, when you observe that people buy on media and then purchase on Shopify's of the world, I would have guessed that the reason why I buy from the media is because I feel this personal connection to another human being behind the screen, behind the window. In the world of AI, is there such a connection? Is that what's driving commerce still, or is it something else? I think this question may apply to you as well as character AI, which makes a lot of virtual personas.
Yeah. I would say nothing is more motivating when it comes to spending money as identity. Like you had said, we spend of ourselves to get into that world, and that could mean spending time with the character, and it could mean buying a t-shirt and wearing it outside. And so, it's sort of like your previous question around how real are the images, and the answer that I heard here was it doesn't matter how real the images are. We're not trying to recreate yesterday's model. We're creating a new thing. And people can really be touched by something that's emotionally true, whether that's of a real person or of a character that's being created or Star Wars. Like, none of that's true, but it's very compelling. You really want to be in that world. Yeah. And yeah, I do see that as continuing to be very motivating.
Even with the virtual character.
Yeah.
Authentically connected.
Yeah.
Now, I want to ask about how commercialization should be happening and how you expect
Can I just say one last thing?
Go ahead.
I don't think they're any less real than manufactured boy bands or girl bands. Like, those aren't real either. They're real people playing the characters sometimes. A lot of what we see as real is also constructed, and it is real because it has emotional truth, not because the image that we're looking at is photorealistic or like a real person. Like, we're all actors playing a role, even the people we really believe in. So yeah, that's kind of my answer to why I think it's not that surprising.
Having a bit of a related thought here about commercial relatedness and actual purchasing decision. You know, K-pop Demon Hunters became really popular. I even hear about it at a meeting in the Middle East. Just 2 days ago, I was with a very serious gentleman representing a large family office, and he was talking about how his kids are watching K-pop Demon Hunters over and over again. I actually try to ban listening to their music because I'm so tired of it. I told my kid, turn it off, please. I cannot listen to the same song, like this is 100th time. And then I start hearing it. I thought they were playing on their phone. It's like, can you please stop it? It's like, Dad, it's not me. Somebody else is playing it outside the car, right? It's getting very popular. So you think that somebody smart will be commercializing this, but in reality, we cannot even buy some of those characters or shirts as easily. There's no commercial follow through quite yet, at least it seems. Do you think this will continue? The scarcity is still the name of the economy, or what's going to happen with the prolific creation through AI-generated media?
I mean, I think there's new business models that need to be created, and people need to remember. I think the business model that we're seeing, one of them, if we were to encapsulate it, is this shifting back and forth between audience and market. Audience and market. An audience is someone that you give to. You give them music. You give them shared experiences. You give them content. And then a market is someone you, in a certain sense, you get from. Okay, you give them product, and then you're getting money. And you know, one of the big mistakes that we see today are commercial brands whose job is to make money, who are only selling, always selling. And in the next generation of merchants, what we're seeing are people who are much more mindful about the dance between giving and taking, giving and taking. When you go to their website, the very first thing you see is not just you could buy this, you could buy this, you could buy this. It's like, here's who I am. Let me tell you a story. So storytelling is kind of at the heart of the next generation of brands. And we're seeing from the people on this stage, the way storytelling is fundamentally being changed and fundamentally growing and becoming more inclusive of people. We used to think of them just as our market, and now we can think of them as our audience. We can entertain them. We can, we can give them a sense of self and a sense of being seen. And, you know, it's just so powerful. It's really impressive how some people are using AI and generative AI. I mean, we heard amazing examples today in order to advance not just like the thing they're selling, but actually even the very business models of commerce. It's very big, it's very powerful, it's very untapped, and we're seeing it manifest in different ways. We heard in the previous speech here this existential question. I invest in AI, but 70% of all AI investment has gone into 5 deals or 6 deals of 5 companies. And I don't have the heft to invest into that. So what am I investing in? Like, where's the rest? And so what we're seeing on stage today are answers to that question. These are companies that are using AI to fundamentally reshift industries, not the AI industry, but the next industries beyond that.
I want to invite a few questions before we wrap about food for thought. I wonder what all of this means to K-media, K-culture, K-media, K-pop have been incredible in terms of, especially in the recent success, but it's been going on for a while. You know, what should K content creators or media production companies, management companies should do going forward? So as I open this up, I do also invite you guys to make a comment. But if you have questions, please let me know. Any thoughts, questions, or are you gonna be shy like the previous session?
First off, thank you so much for the insightful discussion. I have 1,000 questions, but I'm gonna try to limit it to like one or two. One is that I heard that this is a tiny minor question. I heard that generative AI have a hard time creating a like brand new image or story. I heard that generative AI would have a hard time creating an image of a wine glass with a full wine, full to the rim, because in the world there are not a lot of images with the wine glass with wine full to the rim. And I was wondering, how do you guys work around those limitations, or what do you guys think of those? And the second question is that I'm particularly interested in how AI impacts the entertainment and particularly in gaming industry. So these creative AI developments, such as AI-generated characters or AI-generated images or videos or interactive storytelling, and I was wondering how these developments can be truly successfully impactful to the gaming industry or the entertainment industry.
I can touch on the gaming part, and then I'll give Alex a minute to mull there. It's a great question, so thank you for the question. I think about this a lot, and the reason is that the format that we have a character AI is this kind of new format. Started off as chat, but as we add multimodal onto it now, what is this thing? It's very interactive. It's very fast feedback, back and forth, chatting, but then generating images, but then watching a video cutscene, much like a video game. Is it a game? Not really, but you play it? Well, not really either, but it's like play. And so I think we're straddling this very difficult thing where we're thinking about game mechanics and the role that they could play in storytelling and chat, but not becoming a game. And on the other side, when I meet with folks from game studios, a lot of the time they're thinking about how to bring in more lifelike NPC AI and things like this into their games. And so I feel like there is this kind of blurry middle, and I don't have the answers, but I sense the challenges from the game studio. They're struggling with the things that we're good at, and we're struggling with the things that they're good at. And I don't know what that means. Maybe we both end up in the same place, but I think there's a lot of overlap, and I think that increasingly myself, I'm hiring people from game studios because I believe that game designers are thinking about the future of personal software very differently than traditional enterprise SaaS designers and thinkers. And so actually I think game thinkers have had a decade to develop the right kind of ways of thinking about the future of software. And for me, that's very attractive. So I'm trying to bring those people into the company.
By the way, as you probably know, there is a now AI engine that can generate the world model. So without game engine, you can kind of create the game. But an interesting thing I heard from one of the directors that's working with Pickford, Steven, was kind of revealing. What he said was, games, if you let the joystick go, the game stops. Nothing really happens. But the kind of interactive media that the likes of Pickford is generating, if you stop, it still continues. There's a story. The world continues on with or without you, but you get to participate, right? So that was pretty interesting. But before we wrap, we do want to touch on why can you not create visual artifact that doesn't happen often in the real world?
So I wanted to go back to these two questions as they are interconnected. I think what we have seen especially in the United States, is that they try to build the whole, like they try to close the loop. Let's say there is a strong IP like Angry Birds or Minecraft, then it leads to creation of toys for the kids. And I have 3-year-olds, so I know what I'm talking about. And unfortunately, it doesn't mean that. And unfortunately, very often, it's not high quality content which becomes popular. And then after the toys are produced, they also make movies. So we're seeing like this loop being closed, but unfortunately, the quality of this, let's say Angry Bird movie or Minecraft movie is probably not the highest, and we can see that the ratings are not very high as well. And I hope that with the progression of the technology, the other production companies, let's say toy production companies, movie production companies, they will be able to license high quality IP, let's say K-pop IP, and really build universes around them. Today it's probably not possible yet, although I expect that the technology will enable like way more companies to fully close the loop around the IP. So that's the same IP can be used, let's say, for a game, then it can be used to make the toys, then to make the movies, and so on. And just to be very practical, I think what I have seen with mobile games specifically is that they try to build these small, not like dramas, but really like, let's say, YouTube shows, maybe a few minutes long, which can serve as an onboarding to a new world. And then after user watch, let's say, after a customer watch 5-6 minute YouTube video, then they go to the game to experience the world fully.
Thank you very much.